We are dealing with a chronically big issue in relationship to dating. I'm gonna have a whole other video, probably after this one, where I talk about the anti-human agenda, but we're not gonna dive too deep into that, not make this feel like a deep state video. I want you to really understand something that's actually quite on the surface and in front of your very eyes. You've just been told not to look at it. There's one of the biggest problems in dating nowadays is the deterioration of a value system in relationship to it. Let me be honest with you. If you think you're as virtuous and as kind and as sweet as you present yourself, you're probably not if that's what you look to present. There needs to be a connection to a value or an ideal of why you are a certain way, which is why most dating now is delusional. And so I want to share a lot about the delusional dating scene that we're experiencing all the time and the kind of pain that we experience in relationship to the lies that we present. First off, if you have no connection to your values, and you really have to challenge your connection with your values, meaning that you believe the things that you say you believe in. You know, even for years I said I believed in God, but that wasn't true. I believed in what God can give me. So here's a really fun format you guys can have to work with. Let's be a little more practical today because I do believe that you guys need to educate yourself in relationship to why you're probably not as honest as you claim to be. One of the biggest, if not the most necessary value to have that will allow you to investigate your life and to become the person that you dream of becoming is going to be the value around truth. Does truth come before you being right? Most people go, I like when it only lines up with me. All right, well, congratulations. Here's some humility. Or do you still hold your perception of how you're seen by others over the truth? You probably do. And of course, are you willing to say the truth when it bites you in the ass? The truth is a long-term game. And this is a very important question for you guys to ask yourself here. The whole point of this video is so that you guys can start learning to be more honest in dating, because where you build a relationship from the beginning is typically where it's going to end. There's no shortage of delusion nowadays, especially when people are looking for it. And you guys have to understand why you like delusion. Well, here's why you like delusion. It implies less responsibility. It implies pleasure, baseless pleasure, where you can look to the other person and get it until they stop giving you it, and then the monster comes out. Now that monster is you. But it comes out without you understanding that about you, so that's probably why you weren't honest. But if you're watching this video, now you want to be honest compared to how you used to be dishonest. So I mean, look, I'm the forerunner of delusion and non-confrontational behavior. I was the #1 poster boy of delusion and non-confrontational behavior. Well, I was raised by very traditional parents looking to, give me the truth, show me how I needed to be, and I looked out in the world and I realized these values you show me don't really manifest into the love that I desire. The love I desire, well, it's not here. And so, of course, I left and I lived my delusional life and interacted with my delusional relationship. And it's very important to understand that although there is delusion, there's also truth in your behavior that you're afraid to confront that creates the delusion. I want to make it very simple, so that you can actually understand that in a world like today, you become easily seduced. And perhaps maybe that's what you want. I spoke about it in the previous video, which is most people don't want to be seen and they don't want to be loved. If you can ask yourself one question before going into this, which is, do I want to be seen and do I want to be loved? And then another question, why don't I want to be seen and why don't I want to be loved? You'll have far more clarity and understanding of why you're protecting yourself so much, why you perhaps are afraid of how it's going to change you, because love will have the ability to do that. But what we're really dealing with right now is that even our humanity in relationship to our values is no longer a conversation in how we present ourselves. We split them. They're two separate things. There's your humanity, which is for fun and pleasure and all of the things that make life enjoyable. And then there's your values, all the things that you're bound to that unfortunately are so boring. Why does it need to be that way? And this is because there's a lie there. There's a fundamental lie. And the fundamental lie is my values and humanity are two separate things. They are not collective. To be fair, if you let your humanity be the way that it was and you did not have a system of values, you would never see the humanity that we now see today that is reflected in the arts. Let's not say 21st century art because that's but let's talk about the arts in general. The reflection of society and our culture is going to be a manifestation of the values that we collectively uphold, that we connect to with our humanity. Now, of course, if you separate humanity from values, you lose humanity, and of course the values become what? A form of protection, a form of power, a form of significance. So before you go ahead and just think that your values are yours, start seeing how you get these 3 things. There's actually 4 things. Approval from others, recognition, significance, and even pity. Now here's what pity sounds like. You know, I gave my whole life to God and I was given nothing. I'm like Job. Shut the up. You're not like Job. Stop quoting him. You didn't die on a cross. You're making things about you and you're getting power, which was the need for recognition. You get power from that. So when you have your values, you have to understand what you're attached to in your values that don't allow you to see the value of the values. And it's really damn important, because if you don't do this, well, then you're compromising your humanity in the name of your values, which make you feel the things that you're too afraid to present your humanity, that these are aspects of your humanity that you're now getting through your values, but this time on the back end, this time in the shadow. We already know this for certain, that if you don't have any basis for your relationship, you're building it on sand. If you don't have any values that you collectively share, you're building it on sand. If you don't connect to your values with your humanity, you're building it on sand. I'm saying this because, I think it's very easy, and this is going to be one of the best advice you ever get in your life. I think it's very easy when you're desperate, and I say that with no short of desperation myself. I laugh at it when I say it. When you're insecure, when you're traumatized, and when you see somebody saying, hey, I want to build the life that you want to build. And sometimes you're like, here she is, here he is. And it's like a slow-mo moment from Deadpool. And the music plays and the 80s rom-com feels like a euphoric blast of, and then keyword, delusion. Well, there's going to be a lot of confrontation in the process of finding truth. And how connected are you to finding the truth? And I want to call you the out. You claim you want to find the truth, but every time that there are uncomfortable realities being presented to yourself where there's truth in it, you turn and look the other way. Every time where there's a difficult conversation to have about perhaps them not realizing what you give, you go, no, they do. It's okay. It's fine. I'll live in blissful delusion. Every time that there is an opportunity to get closer to somebody, perhaps maybe through the darkness, you turn away from that. And you don't think that you're turning away from love. You absolutely are. So you meet this person. They tell you all of these things. And you're very connected to your values, or at least you claim you do. Because if you did, you probably wouldn't be so easily seduced by words. You would start understanding the value of what you connect to in your life. This is in direct relationship to why you're here. This is in direct relationship to what makes your life meaningful. And I really want to give you a good framework of what to pay attention to, especially nowadays. There's no shortage of people claiming they want good things. If you've ever been used, put your hand up. And I'll tell you, the people that use you are the ones that typically say they want good things. And it's not because what they say isn't the things that you want. That is true, that is what you want. But it's that they have nothing to show for what they say. And they have no connection to their values. Now you're gonna love this. People talk big talk, but it's cheap. At what point do you become the person that is connected to their words, and that their words become a reflection of who you are? When you have a few things. A value around truth. How do you know somebody has a value around truth? Well, look at their life. What does their life say for it? If somebody says, they want to live a religious life, and then you go, oh, great, that's awesome. I love your grandiose claims. You never did that for yourself. I can't help but to see a disconnect here. Fair enough. Somebody who's aware would go, you're right. I live my life a certain way. I'd like to show you I want to live it this way. Somebody who's delusional will go, no. This is really what I believe in. And now is my opportunity to share it. Where's your life to show for it? Now, there's a reason, if you want to really learn how to trust, learn how to love, and learn how to be loved, and learn how to love others, start holding people accountable to their actions. And not all the time are their actions just around you. Actions that were once present are now in the past. You want to learn a lot about somebody, talk about their past. See how it lines up with the values they claim they want to share with you. And it's a very big, powerful form of seduction. But remember, it only happens to people that undermine the value of their values. So you need a connection with them. You need to really believe in what you're going to believe in, because when there's a pretty face, or when there's tall, dark, and handsome, and he comes down the door and he goes, I'm presenting to you A, B, C, D, and E, and then you just immediately are blinded by it, you're almost reinforcing the delusion and not even giving them an opportunity to be honest, because you're too afraid of the rejection. So what really comes first? Maybe even love or truth? Well, it's not much love if there's no truth in it. So you better believe truth always comes first, even when it bites you in the ass. So here's a very powerful way of understanding value, especially in relationship nowadays, because there is a value exchange, whether you like it or not. There are two things you cannot be in dating. Delusional, meaning unaware, and baseless, meaning having no values around growth, truth, or family. Those people, run from. And you're probably like, well, why? I remember giving people a chance. Do you want it on your dollar? That's a real question to ask. Oh, if you do want it on your dollar, you haven't realized the value in your life just yet. Maybe it's time for a lesson. Welcome them in. Get your ass kicked, because you will. You might have kids, you might experience a divorce, a lawsuit, all the ugly that typically comes out when people refuse their own ugly. Oh, there's plenty of our own ugly, believe me. You have to be able to realize that people have those two values, that they're willing to say the truth and that they have a system of values. Because if they don't, nothing they say matters. Love really matters when it's real. And I honestly think we forget that a lot. And I want to present to you a would you rather. Would you rather a delusional, baseless relationship where you experience bliss and euphoria and you don't need to engage in confrontation or anything real, and that you could gallivant with that person into the field and live happily ever after, at the cost of all of your humanity and all the aspects of yourself that make you who you are? Or you interact with a very dark reality where there's a lot of confrontation, there's a lot of fights, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of trauma. And it may end in heartbreak, and it's not perfect, but it's real. I want you to fill yourself in with that for a moment. Why? Well, because for the first time in your life, you will begin to understand the value of honesty, truth, and reality. If we do not stand up for truth, then you stand for delusion. Reality isn't always so pretty. Neither are we. But you think about how what makes us beautiful is the sum total of what we are. More than just so much the imperfections that we dive so deep into. It's more of the experience of a butterfly than the analysis of one. Because really, if you take a good look at them, they're kind of ugly. It's kind of like what we look like ourselves. It doesn't mean you can't realize about it, but you have to understand what we represent is beautiful. What we represent is divine. And that is collective in the masculine and in the feminine. When you present value to somebody, you have to understand that they are aware of value in general and the gaps between where they're at and where they want to be. So here's a really good question for you. After you've done that, would you rather? Who are you? Now, put the delusion aside. I promise you, with enough delusion, you eventually think you're building on truth until you find out it was sand 20 years later. Who feels like an idiot now? So maybe let's take the harsh prescription of, I'm not where I think I am. What's the worst that could happen? Only realize and recognize your strength, or realize and recognize the faults that you have refused to identify. Both of them require humility, which is a sense of openness in relationship to reality, meaning that there's more to learn always, that there's more to grow, that you can still interact and experience your value, that you don't need to be a humble bumblebee, whatever they call it. But you can be a human being who understands that there is more, that you are deserving of more, and perhaps this isn't all there is. Even when it's great, this isn't all there is. Not because it's not enough, but because you're worthy of more, and that you believe that. So perhaps humility is somehow this balances this perfect duality of high esteem, but also no esteem at all. But it definitely manifests in openness. So you ask yourself the would you rather. You let that carry you down to an understanding of awareness to what you do give and contribute. Because you know you've heard this thing on TikTok, what does she bring to the table? The answer is, if she answers my good looks and my personality, she offers jack shit. And the reason why I say that is because she's not aware of the value that comes in as a woman, and she's too busy protecting herself from perhaps maybe seeing the faults in her character too. Same thing goes for men. Oh, I bring all of this success, my stature, all of this. No. That's not what's really of value. What's really of value is the things that you represent and stand for. The things that you will die for. The things that you believe in. The things that actually make your reality matter. Not the things that allow you to be relative to others that make your head seem taller in the crowd. No, what actually has value is divine. Everything else is futile. So I'll give you an analogy. It's very important to understand this, that if you want to be seen and loved in a relationship, you have to accept one thing. Their awareness of what they do contribute and what they want. So the other question was that we're coming back to is, who are you first? What are you? And then, who do you want to be? Two different questions, two different pictures. Can you be honest with both? And don't undermine the value of a journey either. Sometimes who you are is so far away from who you want to be. That's where the most fun is. I remember that when I would work at the gym, in my brother's gym, and the best time of my life was when I didn't know who I was, but I was open to find out. I just knew that I was worthy of more and that I wasn't telling myself that to feel good about myself because I actually was connecting to the value of my life. One of the things that changed my life was giving to everybody around me, like as if I would never leave them, until I realized I could leave, but I didn't want to. I made a choice to leave. The most impactful time of my life is when I picked up the controller with one of my best friends at 22 years old when I went from 30 clients to 4 at the time I had a fitness business. And I played Halo 2 with him till 3 a.m. in the morning every night. And I went out in the suit. Actually, this is the suit I went out in, and this is the shoes I bought because I was too busy hiding from the world about maybe perhaps I like nice things. I set myself free, and I set myself free because I wasn't too busy trying to be somebody I wasn't. I was being who I was. And it was almost like reality was there for me. The adventure started. Somehow I was open to the desire to play video games, and a particular video game to say the least. That made me realize the beauty and the nuance in relationship to how life calls you is so personal. It feels romantic almost. And I went out every night and I met many people and I wore a suit and I told them what I did, and it wasn't a trainer, and I set myself free from my life because I was willing to interact with who I was and who, at the time, I am. When this happens, you become aware of the value you have and that it's always been enough. But the fact that you tell yourself your value needs to be this before you present it is exactly when you never grow it. The man that you're seeing here today was one that went on a very arbitrary journey, which I'll probably share with you guys another time, and some inner child stuff I'm sure you'd love. I loved it. I think the best time of my life that allowed me to become the man that you're seeing here. That's only going to be continuously growing, which is the commitment that I've made for the rest of my life, to always see who I am and be present with that person, not always who I want to be. Because who you want to be is going to be somehow the Jiminy Cricket that sits on your shoulder, that calls to the version of who you are right now, help guiding them in the present, experiencing the adventure, becoming the man you dream of, and then eventually becoming the new present with the new man you want to become. So you're almost always guided by the ideal version of yourself, the things that you want in your life, and it's bringing out your adventure, and it's manifesting beyond your own beliefs and, by the way, your own comprehensions of what you could achieve because you have the power of presence. You're able to show up for what's there, and you're able to see the value of what is, and you're able to come in with what's enough, and you're able to fight the dragon, not with the perfect sword or the perfect shield, but with the sword that you have and the shield that you do, with the friends that you have backing you up, and the map that you're on, going to the journey towards that castle with the princess. And that you know that as you are is enough. And as you become a king, maybe you're not the greatest, but you're the king that's necessary for the kingdom that needs you. And that's enough. And so it's very important to understand this insecurity here, that if you cannot face yourself today as you are, you forever reinforce a life of a delusion as you're not. And in dating, what does this look like? Well, I'll show you. I have $10, you have 100. We've been dating for a few months. And then you ask me, hey, what is it? I notice that you keep giving $10 when I give 100. And then they go, what? What do you mean? I don't do that. Okay, well there's delusion. And the other part is they can't really appreciate the 100 you give because they don't understand the value of what it takes to give 100 when they're only giving tens. So don't act like you understand me. Of course you get upset. Of course you feel like you're betrayed. Of course you feel like you're hurt. It makes sense. It's like saying you know how to bench 300 pounds when you never touched a barbell. Do you understand the work and dedication it goes to going to the gym and developing strength and discipline and hard work and diet? Well, you probably have no idea what it's like when you're a fat thinking that you have an idea of what it is like. So don't be an ignoramus that's delusional and diminish other people's value because of your own insecurities. Maybe face how you're not there yet. That's okay. And I'm yelling at you because somebody needs to wake you up. You live your whole life protecting yourself from the fact that you have nothing to offer. You are putting $10 in front of everybody's 100, saying it's 100. Not only are you a liar, you delude yourself and you become incapable of recognizing any kind of progress. Trust your values. If you want to grow, that 10 will become a 20 by tomorrow. If you truthfully want a 300-pound bench press, show up to the gym. You truthfully want to have something to show for yourself. Understand the value of your words and understand the value of others' works. If you want to be valued for your work and your heart, and by the way, your struggles, you're going to realize that perhaps maybe, oh my God, you're right. You're an inspiration to me. I want to have those things in my life, but I don't stand for those things. And right now, I've never hit the gym. I'm a string bean. I don't know what it takes to eat 3,500 calories a day, but every time I look at you, I want to be a part of you. And then they go, hey, you now appreciate what I give you because you see me as the person that's actually put in the work, and you're the one that's trying to get closer to the inspiration, to the ideal. Not only do you have respect, you're also loved for the $10 you give. Using these analogies in tandem with each other, I realize that when you're aware that your $10 is valuable, it's just not as valuable as 100. Stop coping. Start accepting that you will improve your value and stop diminishing the value of 10. Sometimes in a relationship you will experience that, where one gives you 10, the other gives you 100. Just accept the difference and that your value to make that 10 a 20, a 20 to a 40, a 40 to an 80, an 80 to a 120 is what makes them keep giving you hundreds until eventually you guys are growing together. His 100 turns to 2, yours turns to 3, 4, 5, 16 to 16. You're growing together. Because it was not so much what you presented at first, but it's who you are with what you present. You've never even given yourself a try. And how about today is the first day that you do? Take a good look at your life and realize that perhaps the things that you do have are enough. And that perhaps maybe in relative to others it's more that they have. But you no longer need to delude yourself. You no longer need to lie to yourself. You need to understand that what's going to allow you to grow in general is being able to recognize what you have and the commitment behind growing what you do have, not hiding it from the world. Do not hide the truth, because you'll just live in a world of delusion and you will be the one that's hurt by all the predators. So to wrap this up, start with the would you rather. Would you rather a delusional, blissful relationship to where you are never challenged or inspired by anything beyond the current individual that you are? Or would you rather a relationship that's deeply antagonizing, that triggers a lot of your insecurities, that requires you to speak up, that requires you to bring the best out of you, and may end in heartbreak? Are you willing to face that? But it's real. After that, acknowledge who you are now, and then who you want to be. They're two very different people. Yet, if you acknowledge who you are now, you become who you want to be. Because now you have belief in both. You get to live in the present as you create your future. Nothing more beautiful. And of course, the most important one is the awareness of the value that you give in relationship to other. You may be prone to protect yourself. You may be prone to create narratives. You have to be able to recognize 100 from a 10, or else you'll never grow your 10 and you'll diminish their 100. If you begin to understand that truth comes first and you hold that as your forefront value, you'll be safe in a world where everybody lies, in a world of delusion where nobody wants to be seen. If you know what's true and you feel it deep inside of you, then it can be called to you and you could identify it in others and you could call to that in them.